Hey, good morning and good afternoon to the East Coast. This is Dave Savage, and it's our honor to have Darren Hardy to help kick off 2017. Darren, welcome to the Mortgage Coach community, brother.
Thank you, Dave. Always a pleasure. Glad to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, we've had the honor of having you a lot more than normal. I've had you as a guest annually, and then last year we kicked off the Insane Productivity Program with Mortgage Coach. I mean, to say the feedback from the market's been good is such an understatement. I mean, people are just loving it. We've put over 150 loan officers, Mortgage Coach loan officers, through your Insane Productivity Program. So I'm looking forward to, asking you some questions that have come up with the goal of helping Mortgage Coach professionals just crush it in 2017. Darren, I think you know a little bit of this, but last year was a record-breaking year. Rates have gone up a little bit. There is some concern. So as we have this conversation, if you could tailor it as much as possible to get mortgage professionals just out talking to realtors and executing better when they're meeting with their partners. Sound good, my friend?
Sounds good, man. Let's do it.
Good. Well, let's start with just a little bit more backstory on you. While most of the Mortgage Coach community, they know who you are. Tell us a little bit about that so we can kick off 2017 and get into how to make it our best year ever.
Well, I started out like everybody else, mere mortal. Fell into entrepreneurship when I was 18 years old. Had my struggles in schooling at the School of Hard Knocks, and started doing well. Got into real estate. In fact, had 2 different real estate offices, and did exceptionally well there, and then graduated onto other adventures that ultimately landed me in the personal development industry. I'd started a television network that was focused around the same kind of content, and it got me connected to all the thought leaders of the world. And then as publisher of Success Magazine for nearly a decade, I got a chance to sit knee to knee with many of the captains of industry and greatest achievers in the world, all with a distinct focus and, quite frankly, obsession of trying to draw out of them what it is that they did to be so productive in a world of 24/7, 365 that we all have. We're all operating with the same set of tools, same time span, same forum. How they're getting 10, 20, 100, sometimes 1,000 times result difference than everybody else. And so that's what we're here to talk about. That's all the results of that 20-plus year journey, that 10-year intensive study as publisher and founding editor of Success Magazine, was sort of packed and distilled into what has become Insane Productivity, which you've talked about, and which 150 of your Mortgage Coach pros have gone through and have gotten extraordinary results, which has been very awe-inspiring for me. And I've loved hearing and seeing the stories and knowing the impact that it's had in not only their business lives as a mortgage professional, but also in their personal lives with their family and their communities. And a lot of great stories have come out of the state. So I'm delighted to be here once again.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to more great stories. So, I first interviewed you, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 years ago. Since then, you've been asked to keynote at, just countless mortgage companies at their sales rallies. Tens of thousands of mortgage professionals as well as realtors have gone through your program. So I think it's powerful content. FYI, everyone, I asked a visual summary artist, Muddy, to come on today's call, and while we're taking notes, he's creating pictures. So if you go to our Facebook page and click on that, he's using Facebook Live. I will show a couple times the progress of that visual, note-taking as we go. So keep an eye on that if you want to see the notes come to life, and hopefully all you Mortgage Coach members are taking great notes. So Darren, let's kick this off with this question. Everybody on this call, or they wouldn't be on this call, they have written down their goals. They have written down BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals of what they want 2017 to look like, what they want their life to look like. But let's face it, everybody doesn't hit those goals every year. What's the best advice you have for everyone that's taking the time to make these notes?
Yeah, so here we are again, right? It seems like every year we get this sort of revitalized, refreshed, pumped up feeling that this year, this time, this is the year I'm going to climb to the top of the mountain, and no sooner than February comes around and we start drifting, right? And life hits us, and we get distracted, and we get overwhelmed, and we end up at the other side of the year, disheartened about what it is that we said we were going to do versus what we ended up doing and the results that we got. And here's the reality. I read over the holiday break a 700-page tome. Many people might be familiar with it, and while it's a good book, I went through the same sort of feelings that I have gone through my entire personal development journey as well. It's like there's so many ideas, there's so many thoughts, many of them conflicting. That what this guy says is the opposite of what this guy says, and a lot of exotic solutions to different desires and ambitions and problems and all the rest of that. But the reality is this. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face right here, those that are attending this webinar, those are the ones that are seekers, right? You're seeking new ideas, you're seeking the edge, you're seeking to get ahead. And as seekers, which I applaud you for, because that's the drive that will push you to become better every day, right? A little bit better every single day. But a lot of times it also can push us into a place of being confused and overwhelmed, and we start making the process of success complicated. And the reality is that if there's one message that I would love to drive home today, it is that success is a lot simpler than anybody realizes, right? I mean, success is simple. Its fundamental practices are extremely simple, and the only thing we can do is screw it up by overcomplicating it, right? So what I'd like to do to start off here, Dave, if you don't mind, is I just want to boil it down to the core fundamentals of what will drive results this year, so that you're not overwhelmed and complicated, right? It's like I don't want that feeling that somebody would have that I had after that 700-page book. It's like, oh my God, there's all these things, there's all these exotic solutions, right? There's all these crazy ideas. How do I make sense of any of it? Because an overwhelmed mind is a paralyzed mind, and it paralyzes behavior, and then it presents us with that excuse. Well, if I don't know what to do, then it's okay that I do nothing, right? Because that's sort of the justification we end up getting to. So what I like to do is just boil it down to what I think are the core fundamentals of what will cause and create success. Because the one thing that's certain, Dave, is that those that go on to be super achievers, those captains of industry that I talked about, they are just like you and me. Mere mortals that put their pants on one leg at a time. But what they've done differently is they have found the few things to focus on, and they don't screw it up. They don't complicate it. They don't run in 1,000 different directions. As Rumi said, right, the man who chases too many rabbits catches none. And that's what I think a lot of us are compelled to do, those that are seekers, right, where you need the next new idea. No, what you need to do is just focus on what those fundamentals are. So what are those fundamentals? First off is obviously just getting clarity on what it is that you want. What are your goals and ambitions? And the reason why this is important is it's very simple. We've got what is called a reticular activating system, which is in a field of billion sensory inputs. Our reticular activating system voids out 99.999% of all of that, so we don't go insane and crazy. And it will pull out of that vast ocean of sensory inputs those things that we've identified we're looking for or are important to us, which is the reason why you can walk through a very noisy airport and hear somebody down the corridor say your name, and all of a sudden you are drawn directly to that voice, that single person, even though you're accosted by all these sensory inputs. So what goals do is it just informs your reticular activating system to just seek in that vast sea of sensory inputs that you're swimming in all day, every day, those things that you're looking for, which is the reason why you start hearing conversations you didn't hear before, you start seeing things you didn't see before, you start, whether it is even just lines out of movies or lyrics out of songs or overhearing a conversation from somebody across the hall, you will start seeing and hearing things that you wouldn't have seen or heard otherwise if you hadn't informed your reticular activating system of which to look for. So that's what goals do. That's all goals do, is just informs that system to look out for the things that you are looking for. So that's number one, is is figuring out what your goals are. So what I'm going to walk you through, as Dave's putting on the screen right here, is what I call the massive transformation formula. And it breaks it down to these 3 points that if this is all you did all year long, I promise you, you could have a crushing year, your best ever, if this is all you ever did and all you ever focused on, okay? So the first of that 3 steps is figure out what your big 3 goals are, your big 3, okay? Not 10, not 50, not a bucket list, you know, not 1,000 places you want to see before you die, 3, and that's it. If you have more than 3 goals, you don't have any, because the life force capacity that you got will be fractured, and you won't be able to achieve those, what are deemed your big, hairy, and audacious goals. So I had a friend of mine who's in our elite program and say, hey, you know, on your weekly rhythm register, there's not room to put the other 7 goals that I've got. What do you do with the other 7 goals so that you don't forget them? I'm like, dude, the question suggests the answer, right? And that is that you're anything beyond 3, and it actually is a distraction. It will suck CPU and computer language, computer processing power away from your ability to achieve those 3. So either, number 1, they don't have big enough 3. Those 3 need to be, if you achieve them this year, would in fact undoubtedly make this the best year of your life. So if you were pressed to say, what would make this, have to make this the best year of your life? Well, that would take your goals and maybe have to have them level up a bit. Now, if I achieve this, that would be better than I've ever done in that category. But if I did this at the same time of doing this, like I did this at the office and I did this at home, wow, that would be unbelievable. Now, if I did this, this, and that in this year, in one 12-month cycle, unquestionably, undoubtedly the best year of your life. Those are your big 3. Take the other goals and throw them away. All they can do is to detract you from being able to achieve those 3 that you've already decided will make this the best year of your life. You see, people hide in having too many projects and too many tasks. They hide. I got all these things to do. No, 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 no. Let's just focus on the few things that if you achieved them would undoubtedly overshadow, relegate the rest of the list unnecessary. Okay, so that's the first thing, and that is a hard discipline. I'm not saying that this is easy, but I'm saying it's necessary that you boil down all your goals, anything and all that you want to achieve, down to your big 3. And then with that, with your whole heart devotion to those 3, you can achieve things that you never thought possible before without the distraction and the constant sort of pulling and nagging of those other things that you think are so important that you need to do. Okay, so you either have weak goals or you don't have the courage to focus on the few things that matter the most. Okay, so that's number 1, big 3. Number 2 is your key behaviors. You're always only 1 or 2, not 1,000, not exotic solutions, 1 or 2 key behaviors away from a massive transformation in any area of your life. Whether it's your sales, you're 1 or 2 key behaviors. You've already talked about it, Dave. It's having productive conversations with realtors. That's 1 behavior that if you did it every day, day on and day out, consistently, without fail, would transform your results as a mortgage professional. Let's not fuck it up. Let's not screw it up. That's it, man. Stop chasing new ideas. That's it. And just track it. We'll get to that in a second, right? So in your marriage, 1 or 2 key behaviors that if you did it day in and day out, that you sang the song of the love language of your spouse each day, every day, as a parent, as a member of your church and community, 1 or 2 key behaviors. So that's what you do. You take a big 3, and you find 1 or 2 key behaviors for each of those goals and figure out what are those 1 or 2 that if you did them day in and day out consistently would most contribute to achieving those goals. Now I know there's other things that you have to do, but what are the 1 or 2 most important to achieving those goals? And then point number 3 is track it. The biggest problem, Dave, why we're all pumped up at the beginning of the year. We have all these resolutions that we declare, and then we get to the other end of the year, and we're still fat. We didn't achieve the goals that we wanted to. We don't have the intimacy in the marriage that we said we proclaimed at the beginning of the year, is because we drifted. We didn't fall off. We're not bad people. We're not purposely sabotaging ourselves. We just drifted. And we drifted because we were unaware that we were moving ourselves off course. So what's crucial here is that you have a tracking system that just in your face every day. Did you do it or did you not? Okay, you got 3 goals, got 1 or 2 key behaviors, period. Did you do it? That's it. We don't need to debate about it. It's a small box. Story doesn't fit. Did you do it or did you not do it? So tracking is the third mechanism for keeping yourself on the road towards the destination that you proclaim that you want to be at, those big three goals achieved. So Dave, I feel like this is so important. When I thought about this call and what I could contribute to your community, number one is to clear the confusion, and there doesn't need to be 700 pages that you need to digest and psychedelics that you need to try and all these crazy, wild exotic solutions to find your great success. The massive successful people that I know are some of the most basic people that I know, because those basics are what actually produces results. They did 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, they will 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. Why? Because the behavior basics of humanity hasn't changed, okay? Declaring where it is that you want to go and keeping yourself on track with the behavior you need in order to get there. So as a gift, Dave, I wanted to do this, and that is, when I was 18 years old, I met a man in the lobby of a restaurant who ended up becoming a mentor for a moment. And what he did is he sat down and he described how he designed his goals and the plan, how he designed a plan in which to achieve them. And that was what started this whole process. That goal designing system is the reason why at 18 years of age I achieved a six-figure income. And then by 24 was earning more than $1 million a year. This was the goal achieving system that he gave me, and I've been using it now for 28 years, and it's produced millions upon tens of millions of dollars because it just provided that clarity, that certainty, that focused power, and the ability to stay consistent on those few things that matter the most. So as a gift, I just want to give it to you. I want to give everybody that is decided to show up, right? You registered, but did you show up? Are you paying attention, right? And if you are, I want to give you a gift to try to make it certain that 2017 you will in fact be victorious. It's called the Living Your Best Year Ever system. Instead of telling you to go out and buy it, I'm just going to give it to you. So I'm going to give you the ebook process. I recommend that you do go get it in physical form. It is a journal, a leather-bound journal that you use as a process. But even if you don't buy it, I want to give you the ebook version that you can print off. And then there's an audio companion, 3 hours, that walks you through this process about how to design and how to focus yourself on the goal achieving process. So I think, Dave, the link to get it is darrenhardygift.com, and that is exclusive to those that are part of this webinar right now, that are part of the Mortgage Coach community. Please don't publicize that URL. It is not made for public consumption. I hope I can trust the integrity of the community to just, this is for you because you showed up here and you're part of this partnership that Dave and I have both invested a lot of money into trying to uplift and empower the mortgage community. So those would be the things that I would say, Dave. Number one is keep it simple, don't screw it up. And number two is focus on the massive transformation formula, your big three, your key behaviors, and tracking it along the way so you don't suffer the great fate of death that most achievers fall into, and that is drift. The achievement management system inside the Living Your Best Year Ever program will keep you from suffering that same fate. And then when we get on the other side of 12 months, I want you to recall this conversation we're having right now, and I want you to say, man, that did it. That's all I did, and because I did that consistently, these are the massive results that we got from it. Okay? There you go.
Love it. Thank you, Darren. And so, first of all, great roadmap to crush it. As you guys can see, I'm showing on Facebook Live, we are creating these notes as we go. So you can click on that, follow along. I think this is pretty cool. I don't know about you, Darren, but I love innovating. Here's a great example of bringing your notes to life and then keeping them forever. So you like that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Check it out. Hey, Muddy, you're doing a nice job there, buddy. We like it. All right. So another big question, and we're going to see how Muddy sketches this one out. But what do you see as the biggest challenges to achieving those? I mean, let's face it, we all fail. There's a number of reasons. You already said one of them, which is, have too many goals. But what are some of the other reasons why people fail?
It's drift, Dave. It just comes down to drift. The reality is that we know what to do. Everybody on this call right now knows exactly what to do to improve their business as a mortgage professional. You know what to do to be a better husband. You know what to do to be a better wife. I mean, it's the reality is that if all we needed was more knowledge, the internet gives us access to everything that's ever been archived in terms of human intelligence that has ever existed. Knowledge is not what we need. If we did, we'd all be billionaires and we'd all have perfect abs, because exactly what to do in each of those categories is out there. So what is necessary is that we have to monitor our behavior, right? It's the behavior that ends up being the Achilles heel. You know, that's why all time management books and blogs and podcasts and courses that most people have taken in the past haven't worked, because they've just been trying to educate you. And for the most part, they're just telling you what you've already heard before that you still choose to not do again. And the reality is that all of our behavior, 95% of which is unconscious, right? We've got 200,000 plus years of genetic imprinting that is automatically driven towards things that sabotage you from greater success, right? The fact that we are lazy inherently to reserve calories, that we avoid danger and fear, which keeps us from taking risks, and all the rest of that. So what happens is we've got this gap between intentions and results. So for our visual artists here, if you've got on one side, you've got our intentions. And right now here at the beginning of the year, we all have such great intentions, right? If we could just take our intentions to the bank, we'd be billionaires instantly, right? On the other side is your actual results. You know, what's going to happen by December 31st. And in between is the gap, right? Inside that gap, the only way to get from where we intend to what it is that we get is our behavior. It's not going to be our knowledge, right? Because we know a bunch of stuff already, and yet we're still not doing it, and we're not getting the results. So the only thing that's going to bridge the gap between intentions and results is behavior. And our behavior unconsciously is working against us. And what we need otherwise to counteract that are systems that don't have to be thought about, don't allow us the time and reaction and response time to sabotage ourselves, but relegate discipline unnecessary. When we create systems in our daily methods of operation, in the way that we set up our environment, in the way that we prepare ourselves in the morning and we approach difficult tasks, those systems that we build into our processes, those are the things that will allow us to continue the consistency of behavior to go from intentions to results. And the reality, Dave, is that we are living in very difficult times in that regard. These are radically different times. We are subject to so much distraction, so much pull of our attention, that intention that we've got is constantly being run amok by the outside world pulling on us in 1,000 different directions. And so if you understand the difference between how radically different times are today, it's kind of like, let's say you know how to surf, right? But there's different levels of surfing. You might know how to surf, but I'm here in Miami Beach, and so if you go out to Miami Beach, the surface, you know, the water only comes up to your waist. It's clear, it's warm. The waves aren't big at all. You need actually wind because there's no coral reef. It's pretty easy to surf Miami Beach, and that's kind of like what it was in the 70s and 80s in terms of distractions, right? You had knocks at the door. You had direct mail, you had phone calls, and those are the things that distracted you. You had Madison Avenue, right? Those were the great distractions of the day. Then there's another level of surfing. I live in San Diego in Cardiff, and there's a reef there called Cardiff Reef. And the waves are bigger, the water is cold, and the waves are generated by a coral reef. And it goes, you know, the waves can get as high as shoulder high. And that's kind of like what it was like in the 90s and early 2000s, right? Where all of a sudden now, instead of just the knocks the door and the the direct mail in Madison Avenue. Now all of a sudden you had this cell phone thing that could constantly kind of, at the end of an electronic leash, distract you at will. But we only had so many minutes. Remember that? When we had limited minutes? So we were it was easy to restrict ourselves from that constantly pulling us in all day, every single day. We were a little bit more disciplined based on having to, on the terms of our contract. Then we have the modern day. And modern day surfing is like going to where I'm from, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area, and trying to serve the maverick waves out there. Those are what are called the monster waves. And you might know how to surf, but trust me, you don't know how to surf the maverick waves. You try, you go out there, and you are going to become crushed. That's what's happening in our world today. Everybody goes, hey, I know how to succeed. I did it in the 70s and 80s, right? I did it when in the 90s. Trust me, this is a whole different level of surf than you've ever seen in all of human history. And now with not only the unlimited use of a mobile phone, the tablet, the laptops, the computers, the social media, all these distraction devices are not only open portals into you all day, every day, but they are designed to be addictive, to constantly pull you back over and over and over again. And so what that has done to our ability to stay focused, to keep that behavior, remember I said intentions and results, the ability to keep that without being pulled off or drift, it's a challenge we've never seen in all of human history. And it's the reason why this is an urgent call. Anybody who wants to stay successful, this is an urgent call. The one skill set you need to develop is to learn how to improve your personal productivity. Digital dysfunction is the #1 productivity killer in modern history. While the world is physically safer, we are physically safer today than we've ever been as a species in all of history. Psychologically, it is radically more dangerous today than we have ever seen in all of human history. And technology is not the problem. Just like food, you know, the big food manufacturers, they aren't the ones that are causing the problem. It's us sticking food in our pie hole. That's the problem, right? It's overconsumption, not over abundance of access. Same thing with technology. Technology is not the problem. We're the problem. It's a self-management problem. So the urgent call for those that want to be productive, that want to achieve the dreams that they promised their families that they would achieve, want to dominate their market like they've always envisioned being able to do, this is the urgent call of learning the disciplines and the systems of insane productivity in the modern era, how it works today versus how it worked in the 90s or in the early 2000s.
Love it, my friend. So, hey, Muddy, you're doing a great job. Love the way you created that bridge from intent to results. By the way, folks, I have put a link to this Facebook page in chat of GoToWebinar. And then I think you'll also notice, thank you, Dan, put a link to Darren's gift. So, guys, that's free. You know, well, yes, we would love, and we think you'd get tremendous value going through the Insane Productivity Program, and we'll talk about that as we close out the call. Darren, really appreciate you just giving a gift of value for everybody on this call. So, you know, I know personally I've had a lot of challenges with time management over the course of my career. You know, I've read a lot of books on it. I don't know. I think it's just a constant struggle. And I've heard you say this before, but I think it really bears repeating right now. You know, you crushed it with a great formula, big goals, key behaviors, track it, you know, talk about the focus. But, you know, you say we have it wrong, you know, explain how do we have it wrong and how do we get it right, time management?
Well, it was right in the past. Like the time management gurus will try to teach you how to get it all done, right? The book, Get It All Done. It was a great book, sold millions of copies, made David Allen very wealthy, and was very useful back in the 90s and been before that. But that doesn't work in the modern era. You know, the time management gurus will try to teach you how to get it all done. That's the first mistake right there. You know, they try to teach you how to put a 43 folder system together, right? And to tell you to take 2 minutes to touch every piece of paper and to touch every email. That's a mistake. You touch everything, every email, every solicitation comes your way for 2 minutes, and that ends up being amounting to hours a day. They tell you to try to strive for inbox 0. That's a mistake. You know, all that's done is shackle people to their email inboxes even more firmly and cause them to have more stress. And then today there's all these blogs and all these productivity apps and all these Evernote integrations and you know, the iWatch pull. I mean, literally, Yankee, why don't you put that iWatch around your neck, right? I mean, it's crazy how it's constantly trying to get you to do more. The reality is exactly the opposite. You see, you have to understand, and this is maybe the key point here. Epic performers, A players, world builders, captains of industry, they play a very different game. The Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, the great artists, the top scientists, they all run their days completely with different mindsets, different rituals, and different systems, and don't get trapped in the groove of being busy, and trying to accomplish it all. Like, if I were to sum it up into one statement, highly successful people don't get it all done. Highly successful people get the most important things done and actively block out the rest. Remember when I talked about instead of having 10 goals, you've got to find a way to get it down to 3? Those 3 need to have scale. They need to be worthy of your full focus, energy, and effort, and will cause you to have your best year ever. They got to have that size and gravity. But anything beyond that will only pull you apart, will fracture your capacity, your energy, your effort, and will make achieving those 3 not possible, as has happened in the past. Same thing when it comes to everything else around you. So it's a very different game to play today than it's ever been in the past. And so that's the reason why, Dave, I've said most everything most people know about time management and productivity today is obsolete and outdated. And so retraining so that you can enter the modern world of true productivity, of true achievement, will give you such an edge, because most people are still practicing the old principles, whether consciously or unconsciously, or they are subscribing to a lot of the people that are out there that have a vested interest in selling you widgets and gadgets and apps to try to have you log everything that you're doing and all the rest of that. Unnecessary. Find the few that matters the most and go wholeheartedly deep in your mastery of those few, and keep yourself on track and design an environment and systems that will hold you to that consistency. And that is where real power, massive power, can be created. It's the leverage of those few things that swing those massive doors. And so that would be my answer to why it's a radically different day today than it's ever been in all of human history.
Love it. So let's see what Muddy's got going here. Nice job, my friend. The notes keep coming, and it looks like more and more people keep coming and checking it out. So one thing I would love is if there is a takeaway that's been the biggest takeaway for you so far, or a quote, something Darren said that you wrote it down, and it's essential. You know, we are 35 minutes into this call. What's the one quote or one thing that has hit you the hardest so far? Please put that in the comments of this live. And if you don't worry, if you don't have 2 screens and you don't want to multitask too much, just put it in the GoToWebinar control panel. But I want to know what you think is most important and most valuable to what you've heard Darren say so far. So, and by the way, Darren,
can I just amplify one point here? One point, okay?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this a lot, particularly after that 700-page book. If I were serving myself today, I would try to make the process of success as mysterious and as complicated and as scientific breakthrough and exotic and as possible, because that would make you dependent upon me. Oh, then you need more of what it is because I know the way. But I think that is such a disservice. And if I want to serve you, the achiever, I want to do exactly the opposite, which is It is simpler than you think. I look better. If I want to make a great impression, I would come here and go, here's the latest, greatest app. Oh my God, you got to try this exotic solution. And you know what? That makes me look good to come up with some fanciful answer. And that's what most quote-unquote gurus will do. To make themselves look good, they come up with these exotic and complicated solutions towards success because they look like they're super smart and totally on the bleeding edge, but it does more to hurt, confuse, and complex the truth about what it really takes to succeed. And so having no interest in serving myself and looking good and making you dependent upon me, I come here saying, look, it's simple. I've met all the great super achievers in the world, and some of them use the most rudimentary, basic systems that just keep them accountable to the few things that are most important to them achieving, that give them those gargantuan results. They find their few leverage points, and they go deep with those. So in the, for the sake of not trying to impress you with my exotic solution and my whiz-bang new fantastic find a technology app that will do this and that for you, finally that you now have the answer, but to remind you that it's not that way. It's simpler than you think. You're more capable than you think if you can just keep yourself consistent. Find out where you're going, what's most essential to getting you there, those key behaviors, and then keep yourself on track over the long haul, and I promise you, the results you'll have are just staggering.
Yeah, that is much wisdom in those words. I have interviewed hundreds of the nation's most successful loan officers, and they have a few things in common. You know, they're clear on their critical few, and usually one of those critical few, those three most important things, has to do with prospecting, going out and calling on realtors, having conversations daily, having meetings daily. Here in the Mortgage Coach Tribe, it's delivering a total cost analysis to every family they serve. And I don't say that from a self-serving perspective. I'm just telling you, I mean, you know, 34% of the nation's top 1% mortgage professionals make sure that every family they serve gets a total cost analysis. Yes, it's using technology, but it's using a system. You know, by the way, Darren, the takeaways have been pretty cool. I love, you know, one is overwhelmed mind is a paralyzed mind. I don't know what to do, so I do nothing. That's solid. Systems help us overcome our obstacles to executing our key behaviors. Nice. People hide under all these other things. Most successful people don't get it all done. They get the most important things done. So guys, I think we're feeling heard. Big takeaway from Patricia: eliminate distractions, especially email and Facebook. Highly successful people don't get it all done. Again, that's being heard loud and clear, Darren. So great job, team. I mean, it feels like we're really delivering a special educational experience. Muddy, thank you for documenting this, making it something that will last beyond this call. For those of you that have asked, where do I get this? Just come back to this link. Muddy's going to make a PDF available for you. Hopefully, you'll have this in your works area, because you've heard a lot of what Darren's saying before. This is, you know, either I've interviewed him or you've heard him speak, but are you doing it? You know, what evidence would it be, you know, in your life and how you're doing things to say, I've heard it, I'm doing this. So Darren, here's another question. You know, and I like it, like I asked everybody, what's your one takeaway? What's the one thing people could do to improve productivity today? Like if I just asked you that one thing, my brother, what's that one thing that everybody can do today?
You know, I would probably say prune your life. There's ancient wisdom that says the wisdom of life consists in the elimination of non-essentials. And you know, most people, your main competitor is not the competitors in your industry. Your main competitor are distractions, and you can't let them beat you. You got to stay focused. And so we do live in a 24/7, 365 reality. And to get more done, often does not require you doing more. It actually requires you doing a whole hell of a lot less, but doing the few things that matter the most a lot more. And so pruning your life of all the unessentials, and I'm talking about it in every area of your life. Number one, your to-do list, your task list, what you're doing day in and day out. 99% of what most people do when they show up at the office have nothing to do with achieving one of their three big goals. It's busy work, it's psychological hiding and excuse making and running around frantically. So number one is to trim your to-do list, trim your project list, your priority list, trim your goals, focus on what matters the most. But I'd also say prune your personal life, prune the people that you hang out with, the people that you listen to, the voices that you listen to, the things that you read, the things that you watch. I even in the personal development world, I say people need to learn less and study more. Like figure the few things that really provide value, concrete value, and stick with them. While I was building those television networks, I had access to every thought leader in the world. I was creating television shows with them. But that was when I actually spent more time focused on my mentorship with Jim Rohn, because it was like that one voice. The rest of this is confusing and perplexing, but that one voice resonated with, worked for me, right? You have to find a voice that you connect with, that works with you, and I say go deep with it. Obviously your associations. A couple years back, I always pick one word to sort of be a theme for the year, just a North Star. It's no big deal. All right, it's nothing crazy, right? Just a word that kind of themes the year out. And one of the years was prune, and go lean, and that meant everywhere. That meant my body. That meant my relationships. It meant my commitments. That's when I was on 9 boards of different organizations, and that was the year that I resigned from all 9 boards. It was when I cut a few friends loose, I cut a few activities loose, I cut a few projects loose, I cut a few opportunities, business venture opportunities loose, and I can't tell you, my results significantly increased, my stress dropped dramatically, and my joy, that joie de vivre, as the French would say, the joy of life, escalated significantly. So if there's one thing, if you're going to force me down to one thing, I would say go lean, prune. Just like a rose bush. The only way to allow a rose bush to thrive is that you actually have to prune the buds off the bush. Otherwise, it will die trying to nourish and hydrate all the available buds. Same thing with you. If you try to nourish and hydrate all the available tasks and projects and relationships and commitments, you're going to die productively, at least, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. And so I would say prune, go lean. That would be my one mantra if you got a gun in my head here.
Well, it's a good one. I mean, I think we can all relate to it, buddy. I like the way I like the little tree there. So for mortgage coach members, one of the reasons why I partnered with Darren on Insane Productivity, there were really 2 cornerstone reasons. One, I believe that every family deserves this total cost analysis. And we believed at the executive level, like we're going to make this a top priority of 2017 and closing out 2016. And we thought that it would help our loan officers better execute on what they know they should be doing. That when they help a family get into debt, they're going to deliver that total cost analysis. We believe that it would improve the adoption. And while we count how many customers we have, how many loan officers use our product, our number one metric is how many times a loan officer creates this total cost analysis. And we just believe that if we invested in Darren, we invested in Insane Productivity, our total cost analysis would grow. But we also believed that we've got this really cool network of trusted advisors, and we just want to help them crush it. My goal is that when a mortgage coach loan officer meets with a realtor, they crush the competition. I'm highly competitive. I like to win. I don't like to lose. And let's face it, in the mortgage industry, every loan has competition. And let's face it, every realtor has lots of competition. They have lots of loan officers they could be working with. I want the mortgage coach loan officer to win that business. I want them to just kill it. So Darren, we talked about Insane Productivity a little bit. if you could just describe, why you created it, tell us a little bit about it, and I know there's a lot to it, and I'll add my 2 cents along the way.
So as I mentioned, the journey of having the opportunity to be with the most successful people on the planet, and my job was to draw out of them what caused and created that success. And as publisher and editor of Success Magazine, as the executive producer to Success TV. And so this is the distillation of the very best that is drawn from the very best in the world. So as the slide says, this is sort of a window into the minds and the behavior patterns of the most successful. Like I said, they're mere mortals like the rest of us, but there are some things that they know, and there are some behaviors that they have, right? So there's a mindset of how they go about what they do, and then there's a behavior about how they approach what it is that they do. And so what you'll get is the very, very, very best of that. Clearing the clutter, demystifying all the other rabbits that you could chase, focus on what those things that are most vital, and then helping you master those things. It's incredibly powerful once you find what it is that you were designed to do, right? Finding those unique superpowers. What are those vital functions that if focused on and made better to the point of mastery, what you could achieve would amaze you. You'll have no ability to imagine it at this point. Like I couldn't have imagined my life today back 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. I have far surpassed my imagination because I found those few vital functions and then have gone about the process of bettering them to the point of mastery. And that has provided me massive leverage. So when you go inside the same productivity program, what you'll find is that there are those vital functions and those what are called success vitals that, when applied and focused on, can give you a 16 to 1, a 260 to 1, a 4,000 to 1 ROI of results. So in short, the Insane Productivity takes you through a curriculum. Like I can try to do my best to change your mind right here on this call. Hopefully a few of you have gotten an idea, your mind has changed, but I can't change your life until I can change your behavior, as we've talked about before. So that's why people read a book or they go to a seminar and they're like, I'm going to do this with my life, and then 2 weeks they're back to old patterns because the patterns were there when they left and they're waiting for them when they came back, and they suck them right back into those old patterns. So the Insane Productivity curriculum is designed as a behavioral training system. So we take one module at a time, one key chunk core practice at a time that you apply over the period of the week. And then the second week we come back and we apply another few core principles and practices. And you use those over. So it's designed to be delivered one module at a time for 12 modules over 12 weeks. So over 90 days, you've layer by layer have put in these new practices, methodologies, and behaviors that when applied to your method of operation and then held consistent by the tools that you'll be given that are drawn from the best in the world, what that does to catapult your leverage capability is truly extraordinary. So we've had over 10,000 people go through the Insane Productivity curriculum. Results have been well beyond what I ever expected or anticipated. I know what they've done for my own personal life. In fact, I mean, I'm not just pontificating or theorizing by this. These are things that I use day in and day out, and what it's done to put me far beyond my own personal imagination is what's contained inside this curriculum. And I know, Dave, you've had several people right here in the mortgage coach community. I think the best way to explain its value is the results of people that are our peers and what's happening. I don't know if you have anybody there to share their thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I have asked a few to say they're top producing loan officers would just be an understatement. But some Hall of Fame people in our industry are on the call, and they're going to share some perspectives. Hey, Darren, real quick. I mean, every time I think of all the interviews that you've done at Success Magazine, it kind of boggles my mind. I noticed, we got Donald Trump, as one of the first magazines. I'm just curious, how many of these folks did you interview in person? I know it's a little off track, but I'm just curious, what % were in-person meetings?
Well, Donald in particular, I was with him dozens of times because he was contracted by a company, and every time that they wanted him to come speak, they hired me to come and interview him to keep him contained, because as we had found out, he can squirrel off into some cray-cray stuff, right? So I was there basically to wrestle the Donald to stay on point. So I've been all over the world with him, traveled to Barcelona on his plane, and that was always done in person. It just depended on the time and the place and the accessibility of each of the people. When as much as possible in person, but a lot of times we were syncing up studio to studio. But a lot of them.
But you interviewed all these folks. I mean, these were like,
yeah.
You interviewing them, and that must have been a blast. Well, as everybody knows, I've interviewed hundreds of the nation's best loan officers. When I committed to this program with Insane Productivity, I committed to it personally to go through the program and understand it. And then I went to mortgage coach leaders, people that had gone through the program themselves. They were super successful loan officers or executives or leaders. They had been through it themselves, and I said, hey, not only do I want you to help me with this process, but I would love for you to create content that is a companion so that you go through Insane Productivity, you're getting these strategies of the world's most successful people, but you're getting that filtered as a mortgage professional. And so I asked to join me on today's call Coach Todd Bookspan, who's now a full-time coach with Building Champions. Prior to that, was one of the most successful loan officers ever. And he also happens to be one of the best mortgage coaches. I mean, he's done thousands of over 1,000 total cost analysis. So Todd, you've been listening on this conversation. What perspective do you have? Is there either a takeaway you want to shine a light on, or just some, feedback on the program that you'd like to share?
I just love every time I get the opportunity to be part of this community, and certainly, Darren, every time I get to hear you. I've got 3 pages of notes just off of today, and I keep sitting here, and all I wrote down, and I'm going to stick it on my computer, is I want to surf the Maverick wave. That's where I want to go. But I look at it, and you guys hit on so many points, I think, that are extremely important to all the loan officers on the call. However, one of the things, I listen to Darren daily every day, and today I love that, Darren, you talked about having courage. And, I think most of the people that are sitting there are saying, gosh, you know what, spend more money in a market that I'm nervous about. I mean, you already mentioned it, Dave, right? I mean, everyone's top realtors who they're working with are getting hit up now by all the loan officers last year who focused on refinances. Most loan officers need to go out and get new referral partners this year, and you need to do something different. You need to have courage, like Darren talked about today during Darren Daily, and that's, really, as I think about it, I think that that's a great message, for everyone to listen to. You already said one of my favorite quotes from Darren, right? You heard it before. That's great, but are you doing it? And then, lastly, do your results prove it? And I really think that from a true perspective of being productive, there's no better opportunity out there than Insane Productivity for us in this crazy industry where we're distracted, where Darren talks about the fact that we're doing 99% of the wrong things when we show up at work. I really think that's the number one thing that you and I heard over and over on our weekly mastermind calls from people, is how they just started blocking out those distractions, how they started and learned to focus on those vital fews, how they changed their behaviors. And I just really think going into 2017 in a market that is going to be hard for a lot of people won't make it through. I have no doubt anyone who gets Insane Productivity, pours in, won't be one of those people. And that's what makes me most excited about being on this call today.
Oh, love it, my brother. Now, I know I have a couple other top producers. I don't know, again, top producers are out with every realtor in America. So, Danny or Michelle, or either one of you on the call, where you can share something?
Yeah, I actually made it out, Dave. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Danny. So, Danny, by the way, I also want people just to realize, what market you're in, what kind of production you're doing, and then just share a little bit about your experience going through this program.
In San Diego, California market, so pretty great place to do loans. And last year, our team did about $380 million in production. It was about 875 loans.
Killing it. And by the way, and thousands of total cost analysis, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, for that. And it's a definitely a game changer. And actually was meeting with a loan officer this morning and talking through that. And it really, the use of edge and total cost analysis to, bring to those conversations with realtors, with your clients. And it was just an awesome conversation. And I feel like you really got it, because I want to reiterate something that Darren said, which is, this is an urgent conversation. And that is true globally, because the waves of, digital distractions are getting bigger and harder to ride. But for us, kind of going super micro into our industry, the waves are definitely changing. And if we aren't equipping ourselves with new tools, new strategies, we're not retraining ourselves to ride the new wave, or the wave that's going to break left instead of right, when we've only been on the right breaking wave for the last 3 years. We need to be prepared for those things, and that's something that Insane Productivity absolutely did for me. And I'm driving all around town today, going to different realtor offices where I was invited to come and speak because of the efforts that were put forward through November and December, as a result of me getting disciplined, because Insane Productivity equipped me with those tools to do so. So us in mortgage, knowing that we're going to be transitioning into a much more challenging space where competition is going to get tighter. People in this call, for the most part, have been operating in a very professional space. We're going to be up against people that are not behaving professionally, where their next deal depends on, their ability to pay their rent or mortgage will depend on their next deal, and we're going to have to navigate through those challenges. And if we're not focused and disciplined, it's going to be harder to do so, and we might get caught flat-footed if we're not ready. So I can't express enough how much Insane Productivity did for me, providing focus so that I could really move into a headspace that allowed me to get the work that needed to be done at the end of last year. And I'm already seeing the fruits start to become ripe, even in this first couple of weeks of the year, because of it. So thank you so much, Darren and Dave, for introducing it. If you don't feel like you have time, or if you don't feel like you have the discretionary budget to do this, I would flip that right on its head. You don't have time or the budget because you're not focusing on these tactics and strategies that are built into the Insane Productivity platform.
Love it, man. Thank you for the wisdom. And obviously, I believe in this. I think this call has stood alone in value. It's been an amazing hour of time. I think anybody who invests the time and the money in Insane Productivity will just reap the benefits. I don't think Michelle has had a chance to jump in. Darren, if you could just walk people through the price, how to get started, what the investment is. Obviously, there's a mortgage coach piece. I'll cover that. But if you could just make sure everybody understands how to take action. And by the way, there is a link in the chat of GoToWebinar, and there's also a link in the Facebook page, conversation that we're having. So, Darren, what is the investment, and what is the special offer we have for everybody today?
All right, just real briefly, if you paid $100,000 for it, I promise you it would be cheap. Training that works is free. Training that is cheap but doesn't work is very expensive. So, at the end of this, I want to reiterate something Danny said that I think is really, really important. But it's $1,500. We're throwing in a few bonuses that I think are essential, particularly in the contemporary world. That we've talked about, so you can see those on your screen there. And then Dave has also stepped up to say, hey, look, if you do your part, we want to invest in our success together as a mortgage coach vendor, which I think is stellar. So Dave and company are actually contributing to your membership by providing a scholarship of $500. So instead of it being $1,500, it only comes out to $995, and then if you want to break this up over 3 payments, then it's $365 or something crazy. I mean, to me, that is your ability. If I asked you for $100 and I would give you $1,000 back, would you take that deal? That's essentially what's happening here. And by the way, if that doesn't happen for you, if you don't believe that you'll get a 10x ROI on the investment, we provide a no questions asked. We don't even care, a money back guarantee. So trust me, once you get into it and you understand what's at stake here and what opportunities lie ahead, as you go module for module, you'll realize quickly how important of an investment this was. But I want to say one thing, Dave, based on what Danny was talking about, this market, when things get tough and difficult, that's when I get excited. You see, I got into real estate not long after Black Monday, and that was when most of the real estate community got wiped out. So all of those part-timers and weirdos and ex-plumbers and hairdressers that were just sitting by the phone on doing floor duty or sitting in an open house could fill in the blanks of a contract, could quote-unquote sell real estate. They just got wiped out after that, and that was great. That meant that those that were willing to proactively go out and do the things that most people weren't willing to do could clean up. I would not have been able to be as successful as I was in real estate if it had been a good market. The difficulty is what allowed me to rise above easily, because nobody else was willing to do those things. So that's when, to Danny's point, I doubled down on advertising. I showed up to seminars that the year previous, there were 2/3 more people there than there were when I was showing up there, and that's what allowed a 20-year-old. I was 20 years of age when I got into real estate. I was in an office of 44 veteran agents, and in 90 days was out producing the entire office combined. And the reason was because the market was difficult, and I was dumb enough to go out and prospect and do the productive things that were necessary to achieve business, and became #1 in the city, and then #1 in a county of 3,000 agents. I promise you I would not have been able to do that if the market had been good, because any idiot can be successful when people are chasing you across the soccer field to get you to do a refi on their house. I mean, so I find times like this exciting. I think that it is so difficult for people to be personally productive in today's environment. I find that exciting, because it's easier for me. Now I know what those fundamentals of self-management are. So I just want you to look at the difficulty of the market as opportunity. And this is when you double down. Tony Hawk was like on our first, third, or fourth cover of Success Magazine. And he said, the reason why I was able to become the 800-pound gorilla in the skate world was because I got into skating when skating had gone out of fashion. It was difficult. Nobody was into skating when I started my companies, and so because of that, I had no competition. It was easy to rise, and then when the market came back, I was the 800-pound gorilla, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're a genius." He's like, "No, it was market timing." And timing, you look at any of the great companies, Disney, Microsoft, all those companies were started in difficult markets. So man, if there's a time to get excited and a time to double down, to Danny's point, to invest in yourself, to invest in your market, to invest in your the productive conversations you're having with your most valued and most productive real estate partners, this is it. This is a fortunate time to be in the mortgage business because it's difficult. I hope that. And I speak from experience here. I'm not just, this isn't happy mental mumbo jumbo. I'm not feeding you a bunch of motivational cotton candy here. I'm talking about the reality of what's been my life, and then studying the great world-class blue-chip companies of today. Those companies started in difficult times, which is what allowed them to separate themselves from the chaos of a very easy-to-succeed marketplace in other times. So get excited, damn it.
Well, right on. Hey, so let me tie a bow around this for everybody. So get clear on your critical few. And one of your critical few is getting out and meeting with realtors. When I promoted this call, I promoted it on the promise that we would say something, we would share something that would get you more meetings with realtors. No, I didn't give you a script. And we do have scripts, but that wasn't today's call. Today's call, and part of that was getting clear on those critical few and eliminating everything else, this busyness that gets in the way of meeting with agents and borrowers. So hopefully we delivered that. And then I made a promise that, we want you to have a better conversation when you're meeting with agents. And I don't claim that Mortgage Coach is some silver bullet that would turn a bad loan officer into a great one overnight. But I do claim that, when it comes to killing it with agents, you need to tell stories. You need to explain strategies. You need to be unique and different. And so there's no better way to tell a mortgage story than when you have a prop. And again, while I agree with Darren, digital dysfunction is just killing productivity, I also believe that using your mobile device at the right time as a prop to tell a story, and let's face it, you meet with a family or you meet with an agent, and now they've got your mortgage advice in their pocket or purse. I mean, that's life-changing. So hopefully we've shared some ideas. My hope is that everybody on this call, for those, just looking at who's on it, looks like about 70% are already on the Mortgage Coach team. You're part of our network. Some of you are pictures in these that I'm showing you right now. I'm looking at friends going, oh, there's Scott Cummings out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Different Mortgage Coach members. Some of you are guests. Hopefully you'll get on the team. But most importantly, you're going to go through this program. Darren did give you a big gift at the very beginning of the call. So everybody got something for free and a link to go get something for free. Everybody got a link if you want to go deep for $9.95, get a $500 discount. You've got something there. And then Darren, thank you, brother. You cease to amaze me every time I get on the call. I'm kind of like, I've heard you say that before, but I'm gonna do better this time around. For Danny, I know how busy you are. Thank you for taking time to come in. And by the way, I almost forgot to mention it. Every Friday at 9 o'clock Pacific for the next couple months, myself and Todd Bookspan, we lead a mastermind class all around insane productivity. The only way you get into this, you're part of the club, at least 30 people every week. So we did, I did that because one, I wanted to be better, and I figured, no better way to get better yourself than to lead. So it makes me better. And then I wanted to provide some accountability. So, hopefully you'll sign up for this program. You'll join Todd and I. Todd, you're still game for that, my brother, right? Well, I know not every single Friday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a fun thing. I have, by the way, everybody, that is something that Todd and I do as a volunteer. Part of the program, you're buying this program from Darren, and I'm promising, I'm not going to do it forever. I can't commit every Friday for the year, but I can say that I'm going to make sure that happens for the next couple months. Every Friday at 9 o'clock, there'll be a place to mastermind. People like Danny, some of the most successful loan officers in America are there, and it's like a book club. We're all going through this program together, and we're saying, oh, I read this. Yeah, that's really hard as a loan officer. To be able to commiserate with your peers around personal productivity is a pretty cool thing. Last but not least, Muddy, thank you, brother. I mean, it looks like a beautiful work of art. Everybody, there is a link to this. There'll be a PDF where you can download this, print it out, put it in your work area, share it with a friend, and we look forward to having you as part of personal productivity. Take care, Darren.
Okay.